Happy Wednesday. Thanks for hanging out. I'm glad you could be in the stream. I have another great stream planned for us tonight, and we're going to be talking about more of these dang, pesky, greedy realtors. Yeah, there, I said it. Yep, I'm a realtor, but I'll call them out. It's not a problem. Of course, we're not talking about all realtors. We're going to be talking about a specific group of realtors that doesn't want to really abide by the new lawsuit. And a lot of real estate agents had some fears about this lawsuit that was kind of put into court in a court in Missouri by a home seller. And it really changed the way that commission and compensation works in the real estate industry. So we're not going to talk too much about the lawsuit. Of course, if you guys have questions about the lawsuit or kind of what the effects were, what the outcome was, I'll be happy to kind of give you the Reader's Digest. But today we're going to be talking about an article from the New York Times that is basically accusing realtors of blocking buyers and sellers from experiencing these lower fees that this lawsuit was supposed to produce. This article to me is hilarious. There are so many holes to punch through this thing. I think the author is not very credible. Not the New York Times publication. You can have your own thought on that. But I did some research on the author of the article, and she's a very interesting perspective when it comes to real estate and real estate agents. So I definitely feel like this video is a little bit slanted, or this article is a little bit slanted. But we're gonna go over this article from the New York Times. Then I have a sort of like a counterpoint, a little video, an Instagram reel from a real estate agent who's like a real estate agent coach. And he's kind of talking about how this article is a load of BS. So we're going to hear kind of the industry's reaction to this article. And then depending on time and how much time we have left in the stream, we're going to move on to something really fun, and I'm going to wait to cue you guys in on that one. As always, my name is Joe Pareca. I'm a real estate agent in the greater Los Angeles area. Thanks for hanging out. If you're already in the stream, welcome. You're one of the first people. And if you wouldn't mind, please just hit that little thumbs up, that like down below. I promise it won't hurt you. It's totally free. And it helps out the stream, helps out my channel. So please hit that like button if you have not already. And of course, you guys know the drill. At any time, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback for me, just go ahead, pop it into the comments, pop it into the chat. I'll tell you right now, the best part about live streaming is being able to interact with you guys, my audience, in real time as we're talking about stuff. So please don't be shy. Put something into the comments, put something in the chat. I always love to know where people are watching from, and I love to know what your opinion on whatever article we're talking about is. So don't be a stranger. Please put something in the chat if you're hanging out. All right, so let's get into it. I'm going to put this up on the screen. Oh, I didn't share it. There we go. Now you guys will see it. Bingo. There we go. So from the New York Times. All right. And now, again, I'm not going to get into, New York Times versus other publications or what the track record of the New York Times is. It is a major newspaper. It's a major news publication. Whether or not you like the New York Times, we're not here to discuss that. I'm not going to tell you whether or not I like the New York Times, but we're just going to take this article as they have written it. But before we do that, we're going to read the headline, we're going to read the sub headline, and then we're going to learn a little bit more about this author because I think it's going to give you some context, perhaps. So home sellers and buyers accuse realtors of blocking lower fees. A year after a landmark settlement called for a disruption in how real estate agents are paid, people say they still feel forced to pay them excessive commissions. Right off the rip, it hasn't even been a year. This lawsuit did not even go into effect until August of 2024. There was a ruling and a verdict in around March or April, but nothing went into practice. Nothing came into rule, and there was no actual practical changes for the first several months because they basically said, yeah, this lawsuit is valid, but we don't know what we're going to do yet. So it has not been a year after the actual settlement because that didn't happen until August, but I digress. So now we're going to learn a little bit about the author, and her name is Deborah. And here she is. This is Deborah. And she writes a lot of pieces about real estate for the New York Times. I've read other articles from her, from the New York Times about real estate. So let's learn a little bit more about Deborah, because I think I'll give you some good context about the way this article is framed up. Deborah Kameen, I'm a reporter for the real estate section of the New York Times. What I cover: the real estate industry accounts for nearly 20% of the goods and services sold in the United States, making it a significant part of the economy. Yeah, this is absolutely true. That's why in the United States, our GDP is like almost a quarter, 20%, almost a quarter of our GDP is real estate and other businesses that serve the real estate sector. So it is a huge part of not just the American way of life, but the economy of our country. It also has the largest gender pay gap of any field in the nation and is rife with charges of corruption, sexual harassment, and housing discrimination. Wow, we really, we really went into a whole nother gear, didn't we? We went from making, I report about housing because it's a really big part of the economy, to there's also a huge gender pay gap, which is interesting because real estate is often thought of as being a great career for stay-at-home moms. Now, that's a terrible stereotype, but I've heard it before. When I tell people I'm a real estate agent, and people will reply, isn't that what soccer moms do when they're bored? And I'm like, no, it's a real career. At least I think it is. So this is interesting. And it's also interesting how there's no hyperlinks, right? So they make this claim, it's also the largest gender pay gap of any field in the nation. I feel like there should be a hyperlink here to an article that talks about and supports the idea with evidence that there is a pay gap. Okay. Rife with charges of corruption, sexual harassment, and housing discrimination. Okay, well, corruption, sexual harassment, obviously not good things. And obviously we shouldn't have those in our industry or really any professional environment, right? Or really any environment. That goes without saying. But also, again, where's the hyperlink? What are we talking about here? And they're going to go on to talk about some of the racism that's happened. And listen, we know housing definitely has roots in racist past and discriminatory policies in the past, but that was also at a time when America was a much different place. And I think it's probably safe to say that if you're looking on the whole scale, America and the housing industry is much less racist than it was. And that has nothing to do with every industry. You'll find racism anywhere you look. You'll find corruption anywhere you try to look. And you'll find sexual harassment pretty much anywhere you try to look. So I don't think these issues are unique to our field. And I find it interesting that this author is most concerned about those things and not actually about the housing market. So interesting. My work focuses, if I can talk, my work focuses on interrogating those in positions of power and exposing these issues. Okay, interesting. After I reported on racism in the home appraisal industry, the Biden administration set up a national task force to address racial bias in home valuations. In a separate story, days after I reported on sexual harassment at the National Association of Realtors, the nation's largest trade organization, its president resigned. Who knows if those two things are connected? We'll never know. But hey, that's fine. I mean, if this person is an a-hole because they're pushing sexual harassment agendas or ideas, great, wonderful, get them out. Doesn't really have anything to do with housing, but that's okay. In every story I write, I carry the same mission: helping readers understand what it means to buy, sell, and own a home in America today, and the fascinating and frustrating ways that our lives are defined by the places we call home. Okay, so interesting. So here she says, I have the same mission: helping readers understand what it means to buy and sell and own a home. But at the same time, she goes, oh, I'm really concerned with the gender pay gap, corruption, and sexual harassment. It's like, okay, well, interesting. We're talking about a lot of different things here. We're talking about a lot of different things. And then she's just talking about how she started her career, at Variety. She delivered mail, answered phones. She was a freelance reporter. She wrote about things in the Middle East for New York Times. And somehow she now is on real estate. So that's her. That's where she's at. I just think it's kind of interesting to know the background of the writer a little bit before we get into the article. So let's get into the article now. And we can talk about how these freaking greedy realtors are blocking sellers and buyers from accessing these lower fees. And how are they doing this? So here's this guy. This guy has gotten very, very famous on the internet, on Instagram. He runs an Instagram called @RealtorsHateMe. And this guy is, he's just a tech bro who hates real estate the real estate sector. And you'll notice that there's a parallel. Um, Tech bros tend to hate big business because they always want to be disrupting something, right? So tech bros were like, hey, we hate how you have to buy a car, so we're going to make Carvana. And then they were like, we hate how you buy houses, so we're going to make Open Door and all this BS stuff, right? Which, hey, that's fine for some people, but for everybody, it's not going to work out for them. So this guy, here he is. His name is Mike Chambers. He's known as Realtors Hate Me. And we're going to read a little bit more about him. And he's also going to be in a little bit of our video that we see after this. So this is actually a pretty juicy stream. I tend to not get too into the weeds on like the gossip or kind of the juicy stuff, but I couldn't resist with this one. So we're going to have a whole heck of a lot of fun with the New York Times article on this one. And I'm going to welcome you. If you disagree with what my opinion is or what my take on the article is, please put it in the chat. I promise I won't bite. I would love to hear a differing opinion, such as yours, if you have one. So let's get into it. When Mike Chambers was ready to sell his house in Boulder, Colorado last month, he interviewed a handful of real estate agents who promised he could fetch $2.75 million or more if he listed with them. Okay, well, the value of a house doesn't matter who you list with. The value of real estate is what someone's willing to pay for it. So it's not like, well, if you list with me, your house is worth 2.75. If you don't list with me, it's worth 2.5. Doesn't really work that way. Value isn't determined by the real estate agent. Value is determined by the home buyer, the purchaser. But the promise would come at a cost. Okay. Okay. Each agent wanted him to pay a commission of at least 5% or $137,500. All right. So I can tell you right off the bat that when we look at 5%, we don't know what this was for. We don't know what this was for. This is like saying, can you believe that someone paid $47 for a hamburger? And you're like, dude, why didn't you just go to McDonald's and go get a Big Mac for like $8 or whatever the heck they cost now? Like, who would pay $47 for a burger? Well, what if that burger was half a pound, gourmet Wagyu beef, right? And with some, fresh baked brioche bun, like all of a sudden you're like, well, actually now maybe this burger is actually worth the $47 that they're going to pay for it. So we don't even know what this was for. My gut, especially knowing the lawsuit, this 5% was going to go to multiple real estate agents and multiple brokers. This wasn't just going to be the fee for him to sell his house. But we don't know how it was. We don't know how it was put up, and maybe we'll find out as we read through. I read the article. We don't. But just interesting that they're saying, oh, you can get 2.75 million for the house, but you have to pay us 137,000. No, these two numbers are not dependent upon each other in the least bit. Frustrated that not a single agent was willing to budge on the rate, Mr. Chambers, 39, decided to sell his house on his own, and he took to social media with the handle Realtors Hate Me to chronicle the process. His reels drew 50,000 views or more, which is okay. It's not bad. Hey, Maddie, what's going on? Hope you're doing well, Maddie. Thanks for hanging out. Hi, Joe. There was an article in the San Jose Mercury accusing realtors of listing houses at too low of a price because the houses then sold for hundreds of thousands over the deceptive asking price. Correct. So the overarching theme, Maddie, is that everyone hates realtors. We either list them too high, we list them too low, we get too many offers, whatever. I will agree with you that is a problem. And I do have an issue with agents that specifically market and price their homes for 100 or 200,000 below the asking price. And I'll get into this really quick. And I'll tell you why it's a problem. I first experienced this during COVID when I was trying to help a young family, actually my brother and sister-in-law, buy a home in Orange County. And there was an agent out there that would routinely list properties that were worth 700,000 or 800,000. He would list them for 550, 600. And he did it to create this insane bidding war. And the price went way up. And he was able to say that, oh, I got 87,000 over the asking price for my clients. Look how great I am. And the problem I have with that technique is that for consumers who don't know, let's say, for example, we have a house that's worth 500 grand. That's what it's worth. It should be listed at 500 grand. And let's say the agent lists it at 400 grand. Now you have a buyer out there who's stalking Zillow and their max budget is 425. That's the max pre-approval that they have. And they go, oh my gosh, look, a great home, 400,000. We got to tell our agent, we got to get our pre-approval. We got to make an appointment to go see it. We need to go to the open house. We got to submit an offer. And even if it goes over the asking price, we can go up 25K. And little do they know, they're screwed from the start, right? And now they got to call their agent, and their agent's got to, run comps, try to figure out if this price is real. Why is it priced this way? Does it need repairs or not? Now this agent goes through all this work. The buyers get their hopes up, and at the end of the day, they have no shot at getting the property. So I don't disagree that that is a problem, and I think that it's an issue. Now, at the end of the day, we got to remember, realtors only suggest pricing. Sellers are in control. Sellers are the ones that are in control. They're the ones that choose what price to list it at. They're the ones that choose what terms to take. They're the ones to choose which offers get reviewed. They're the ones that choose if you get a counter offer or not. The sellers are driving the bus. The agents are just counseling them. So it's important to realize that it's not the choice of the realtor. It's ultimately the choice of the owner, the seller. And guess what? It's their personal property. If they want to list it for 500K, even though it's worth 700, there's nothing that's going to stop them. Although I agree with the article that you read that realtors need to have a better standard of practice. They need to go, no, we're not doing that. That's misleading to consumers. It's misleading to buyers. It's misleading to agents. Your home is worth 500K. If you want to list it low, let's list it at 475. And then great, it can get bid up. So yes, Maddie, while it doesn't seem that big of a deal, that is a problem. And it is something that I understand the frustrations that consumers have. But thanks for your comment. Appreciate that. All right, let's keep it rolling. So this was interesting. So not a single agent in Colorado for a $2.75 million home, not a single one was willing to budge on their rate. Well, how many agents did you interview? And I find it hard to believe that not one single agent would even consider budging. This to me smells. This stinks like rotten eggs. I'm not saying anybody's lying. I'm just saying, how hard did you really try to find an agent? Because I got news, and you guys in chat can probably verify. If you stand at Target and you spit, you'll probably hit 3 real estate agents. If you just stand up in the middle of a Starbucks and look around, you're probably looking at 2 real estate agents. Any place you go where there's a group of people, there's going to be multiple real estate agents there. Now, not all of them are good. Most of them suck. In fact, you guys know my 80-20 rule. 80% of real estate agents suck. 20% actually know what they're doing and are good and professional. But I find this just shockingly hard to believe that there would be no agent out there that's willing to work for a lower rate. It just doesn't make sense to me. It does not make sense to me. Within days, local agents were making their own social media posts that countered his points, an action that Mr. Chambers described as an aggressive campaign aimed at preventing him from making a sale on his own. I would love to get more info on this, because just as he took to social media to make videos about how realtors suck, realtors took to social media to talk about how certain sellers suck, but now that's a problem. So one group gets to voice their concerns and opinions. The other group does not. At the end of the day, I mean, it's kind of like the First Amendment, right? Like, you got freedom of speech. And if those agents want to make their own videos on their own platforms about how they think that you're crazy for trying to sell your multi-million-dollar home on your own, they have the right to do that. They absolutely have the right to do that. And so here's his picture, or here's his home, picture of his home. Looks nice enough. It's kind of funky, kind of a lot going on with the roof lines. This kind of makes my head hurt a little bit, but whatever. It's not my house. Realtors told Mr. Chamber he could get at least $2.75 million for his house, but he didn't want to pay 5% commission, and none of the agents he met would negotiate. Okay, this is again a misnomer. I mean, I'm gonna lighten this lady up. This is crazy. A negotiation doesn't mean that everybody gets what they want, right? So a negotiation could be like, hey, you want $10 for that baseball card? Let's negotiate. Okay, what are you thinking? I'll give you $3 for that baseball card. And then if the seller goes, nope, that's a negotiation. That's a negotiation. Doesn't mean that it was good for the buyer. Didn't mean that the buyer, got a discount or something, but that's a negotiation. So the fact that If there was truly no negotiation, then that means that Mr. Chamber never even posed the idea that there should be a lower rate. If he did, if Mr. Chambers said, hey, real estate agent A, let's say real estate agent, Mr. Smith agent, I want you to sell my house. I see you want 5%. I don't want to pay 5%. Would you take 2.5%? No, I would not. Okay, that's a negotiation. So don't say that the agents weren't willing to negotiate, because they were. It just didn't go his way. Now, keep in mind, Mr. Chamber is trying to negotiate with people who professionally negotiate for a living. Mr. Chamber is a tech bro. He's got some software companies and he's starting another one aimed at realtors, of course. So is it really surprising that he didn't win at a negotiation with a professional negotiator? I'm not surprised by that. I'm not disagreeing that he shouldn't be upset about having to pay 5%. That's neither here nor there. My issue is with this, well, he couldn't find an agent that would do it for less. And when he asked, they wouldn't even negotiate. I am calling BS on that. Call it the realtor recoil. 1 year after the National Association of Realtors agreed, as part of a legal settlement, to change a key rule on real estate commissions, a rule that had long upheld a tradition of commissions between 5 and 6%, little has changed. Okay, we got more issues here. There's no, this number, it's always been negotiable. It's always been negotiable. There's never been a set commission amount. That's called price fixing, and it's illegal. So this whole idea that, oh, they changed a rule and we're always working at 5 and 6%, and this rule changed it, and they're circumventing that. No, that's not the case at all. All the lawsuit said is that we cannot list offers of compensation in an MLS. We can't put it in writing. We can't say the seller will pay you 3%, buyer's agent. That's the only thing we can't do. It just can't be in writing. We can talk about it. We can discuss it. I can text it to someone. I can text someone and say, hey, my seller will pay you 2% if you bring a buyer. That's totally kosher. It's totally fine. I just can't post it on the MLS. What was hailed as a watershed has so far produced a mere drizzle. Yeah, that's because the lawsuit wasn't sound to begin with. Some economists predicted the rule change would upend the business model and bring competition to a long, stilted marketplace, breaking the standard 6% rate. Again, there is no standard. This is poor reporting. This is poor writing, and this is poor reporting, because that's a lie. There was no standard 6%. I've worked for all sorts of different amounts, for different people, for different reasons, for different circumstances. Standard 6% is BS. That is not true. It never was true. One of the highest rates in the world. Okay, well, yeah, maybe 6% was, but that wasn't the standard. So I don't know what you're getting at. Are forcing down home prices as a result. Though average commissions appear to be slipping, industry watchdogs say that realtors and their brokerages have used workarounds and pressure on sellers like Mr. Chambers to subvert the settlement. So far, they're finding success. I would love to know how. So though average commissions appear to be slipping, industry, which is not true, actually, commissions have gone up from the lawsuit. Interesting. Industry watchdogs say that realtors and their brokerages have used workarounds and pressure on sellers like Mr. Chambers. Yes, so every single realtor and every single brokerage has gotten together and we've said, you know what, we are going to make it so that people still feel the pressure. It's just not true. I mean, it's stupid. I mean, even if you stop and think about it for 3 seconds, even if this author just sat down and thought for 3 seconds, what does this even mean? How? Hopefully she tells us. I don't think so. The industry understood the threat to 5 or 6% rates right away, so looked for opportunities to discourage negotiation, said Stephen Brobeck, a senior fellow at the Washington, D.C.-based Consumer Policy Center, who has been vocal about the need for greater consumer awareness in the real estate industry. Again, there's no threat. What's the threat? 5 to 6%. We work for all different amounts all the time. And most of the time, it's not 5 or 6%. And again, every time they say this, that was split between at least 2 brokers or realtors. If somebody did get 5 or 6%, that was before the lawsuit when you said, okay, Mr. Seller, I'm charging you 5%. I'm keeping 2.5%. We're giving 2.5% out to the buyer's agent. So this whole idea that these agents were making 5 and 6% further, just absolutely not true. It's ridiculous that this would even be published because it's so bad. It's so bad on so many levels. Real estate commissions in the United States have been long baked into a home's listing price and then paid by the seller to their agent. A sentence of truth. That is true. The agent would then split that payout with the agent who brought a buyer, usually with 2.5% to 3% for each. Oh, so here they're going to tell you, after they've already said 3 or 4 times, 5 to 6%, 6% standard, 5 for 6%. Now they tell you a few paragraphs down, well, actually, it would be split. So it's not 5 or 6%, it's 2 and 3 or it's 2.5 or 3%, actually. Okay, well, I'm glad that they finally had some transparency. And it's funny because this article is talking about how this lawsuit was supposed to increase transparency and it would be better for consumers. And we need to be more transparent about what the fees are and what consumers can pay. And this article is not very transparent, which is interesting, but not surprising. The rate of the commission split was communicated on a private listing database available only to agents called Multiple Listing Services. It's the MLS. And in the lawsuit that led to the settlement, a group of home sellers in Missouri argued that the covert sharing of rates led to a lack of transparency about whom and how much home sellers were required to pay. They also argued it inflated fees. Okay, a couple issues here. So number one, after this lawsuit, they took away the publication of agent commissions in the MLS. So before you go on the MLS and you could see exactly how much a buyer's agent was going to be paid for selling that house. What Redfin and Zillow and other websites started to do is they started to say, you know what, we're going to publish that. So if this seller says, hey, buyer's agents, I'll give you 2% to sell my house. You bring a buyer, you get 2% of the listing price, or the sales price rather. Well, what happened is Redfin said, okay, we're going to publish that on our website. So a consumer could go onto Redfin, pull up the house they're interested in, and see exactly how much their buyer's agent was going to get paid. Now, after the lawsuit, they said, you can't do that anymore. You cannot publish offers of compensation. So the lawsuit actually took away the transparency that consumers had to look and see how much their agent was going to get paid. On top of that, how many other professions are out there where you go, I know exactly how much that employee is making. I know exactly what that person's making. Now, I don't mean you don't know how much is being charged for the service. Obviously, you know how much a Big Mac costs, but you don't know how much the cashier is making to ring up your order for that Big Mac. You might know how much a car costs to buy, but you don't know the commission of that salesman that's selling you the car. When you have a medical procedure with a doctor, you know how much that doctor is charging, how much the medical practice, the hospital is charging. You know how much the doctor is making. Quite frankly, you probably don't care how much the doctor is making as long as they put you back together correctly and fix whatever ailment you have is. And that would be the same argument for a real estate professional. So if anything, this took away a lot of the transparency that consumers had when we had the time before this lawsuit, and they could just see how much their agent was going to get paid. All right. Okay, let's keep it going. And guys, at any time, I want to know what your thoughts are. Please feel free to tear me apart if you think I'm absolutely on a different planet. Or, if you agree and you think that this article is a little bit lopsided, I'd love to know. Let me know in the comments. A jury agreed, and NAR, the National Association of Realtors, and the brokerages were ordered to pay nearly $2 billion in damages. This is another fun fact. So $2 billion in damages, it was a class action lawsuit. Each homeowner got roughly between $20 and $25, and the attorneys got a third of $2 billion. So if we're talking about professionals preying on consumers and making more money than they should and being greedy, the realtors that brought this lawsuit made, I don't know, $600 million, $700 million, something ridiculous, $500 million, like whatever a third of $2 billion is, that's what they made, 33%. Isn't that crazy? And meanwhile, the home sellers, the actual victims, got between $20 and $25. Okay, that's very fair. The settlement came 5 months later with NAR agreement to end the practice of commission sharing over MLS database as part of the deal. Again, that was it. Notice how they just put this in here in one little quick sentence. NAR agreed to end the practice of commission sharing over MLS databases. That was all the lawsuit was about. You just can't share the commission in writing on the MLS. That's it. As part of the deal, NAR also agreed to pay $418 million to settle the claims, and some brokerages separately settled for millions of dollars. And there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was all sorts of bad stuff that went down with this lawsuit. It was a very anti-real estate judge with a very anti-real estate jury. The NAR counsel was horrible. There was a lot of things that were just a big problem with that. After a 6-month reprieve, the NAR rule change became official in August 2024. Average commissions dropped from 5.64% to 4.96% in the months that followed, which means a drop in commission of $2,800 on a median priced home, according to a survey of 1,300 agents conducted by Risk Media, a real estate media company. This is the interesting part. This is 1,300 agents is not very big, and there are different markets all over the United States. That we need so much more data and more information. And I've heard conflicting results. I've heard conflicting reports that commissions have gone up. And I've heard from several agents in my own circle. And I asked them, hey, how did the lawsuit affect you? And they said, actually, my commissions are higher. Personally, on average, my commissions are a little bit higher now. So anecdotally, I don't believe this, but I don't know where they got their data. 2 other studies conducted by the online brokerage Redfin and the cloud-based real estate accounting firm AccountTech found commissions have not changed, but those results could be considered biased because both organizations have a stake in the results. Okay, so you're saying that a real estate accounting firm is biased, but Risk Media, a real estate media company, is not biased? Okay, I will continue. Getting too worked up over here, people. All right. The system has been in place for 100 years. Not true. It's not going to change overnight. We have not had the system for 100 years. And in fact, in the early days, there was no protection for buyers. Buyers, 100 years ago, they had to pay their own agent. It was very predatory for people to buy real estate. And in fact, we got away from that because in the late 80s, there was a lawsuit and we changed the rules again. And we actually said, no, you know what? Sellers should be able to offer compensation to buyers. That way buyers can have their own representation and they don't have to have the burden of paying the down payment, the closing costs, and the realtor fees just to have representation. And that's only been that way since the late 80s. So it has not been 100 years, but Michael Ketchmark, he's a little confused. The lawyer who represented the Missouri homeowners. It's not like one day we started streaming movies and then Blockbuster video stores were suddenly gone. It was a slow, progressive change in technology, and that's what we're witnessing here. Actually, this was pretty quick. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't one day. But from the time Netflix started to stream movies in high definition with broadband internet, Blockbuster went away extremely quickly. So probably a good comparison. Many agents say that since the settlement, they've felt cornered by buyers and sellers alike to defend their value. This is fine. This is not a problem. Professionals of all arenas should defend their value, right? If you go to any professional and you say, why should I give you my business? And they don't have a good answer, you probably shouldn't give them your business. So not surprising there. Jeremy Larson, a realtor in Dallas, said that consumers who decide to navigate the home market without an agent are taking huge risks with their money, which they are. That would be like if you were like, oh, I'm going to navigate operating on myself. It'll be fine. Don't worry. Or, I'm going to navigate doing my own taxes for a 200-person company that I run. Probably not a good idea. Probably should get a professional. It's like walking into a courtroom without an attorney. Yep. Why would you do that? There's so many possible things that can go wrong, he said. Sellers who want to sell homes on their own can sit on Zillow all day long, he said, but he believes that without the guidance of an agent, most of them would price their home too low or falter in negotiations. And buyers looking for a mortgage may not choose the right lender. It's such a critical purchase for people, and there's not someone in your corner. Yeah, it's absolutely too. And the other thing here too that they don't talk about, the author doesn't mention, is that it's not even necessarily about pricing their home too low or faltering in negotiations. It's about making sure like you're disclosing the things that you need to disclose. Are you providing mandatory lawful disclosures, and are they done in a correct way? Because if you don't provide those lawful disclosures and then 3 months later the seller goes, wait a minute, there's mold in the house from a flood and you didn't tell me about this, and the seller goes, oh, buyer beware, you bought it, you're going to court and that seller will get sued. So it's not even just so much about pricing the home or negotiating the highest amount. It's also about protecting yourself, protecting the seller, protecting the buyer, and staying out of court. We all know that people today, they'll sue you if you look at them the wrong way. Everybody sues over everything. We're a very litigious society now. And I wouldn't be caught dead doing something where I knew that the possibility for potential legal action would be high. I wouldn't do that without a professional, but that's just me. One viral Instagram video created last month by a realtor in Fresno, California with 114,000 followers shows a man driving down a suburban cul-de-sac and encountering a seller's agent standing outside a house for sale with a sign that reads 0%, referring to the amount of commissions the sellers are willing to pay any agent who brought a buyer. So they made a video. This seller said, "I'm not paying a buyer's agent." Okay. Hello, hell no, the narrator says. At the house next door, also for sale, an agent holds a sign that reads 3%. The man pulls over and says he'd like to take a look. The video may have been a joke, but its message was clear. Many agents, now banned from making offers of commission to each other on private realtor-only databases, are not adapting to the intent of the settlement. No, you're wrong. The intent of the settlement was to limit the publication of offers of compensation in the MLS. And that's exactly what they did. We can have writers on a sign. NAR said this, the judge said this. You can have a sign, you can have a sign on the for sale sign that says buyers agents get 2%, 3%, 40%, whatever percent you want. You can totally do this. They're not circumventing anything. And also, by the way, put yourself in the shoes of a buyer. Let's say a buyer has a budget and they have their closing costs, their down payment, they have it all allocated, and they have their agent, and they go look at a house and go, "Oh, this house is great." And the house, perfect for them. It's perfect. They say, "Okay, we want to make an offer." And the buyer's agent says, "Okay, great. Our agreement is that you're going to pay me 2% for commission, but we're going to ask the seller to pay that." Okay, let's make the offer. "Hey, seller, will you pay 2%? No, I'm not paying anything. I'm paying 0. Well, now for that buyer, that home just became more expensive. It just became 2.5%, 3.5%, whatever their agreement was with their agent. It became that amount more expensive. So if you were a buyer and you could buy this bottle of Coca-Cola over here for $10, or this bottle of Coca-Cola and it's going to cost you $13, but they're the exact same. One costs 10, one costs 13. Which one are you going to buy? Probably the one that keeps more money in your pocket for the same product, the $10 one. This is the same thing. One house says, "I'm not paying anything. I'm not giving you anything." The other house says, "Oh, if you buy me, I'll give you a little something." More people are going to want to go to the house that's going to give them something. This is not rocket science. This is basic. I mean, this is why retail stores have sales. This is why the clearance rack exists, to incentivize and entice people to buy specific products over alternative options. So again, this very lackluster author is making some very poor connections with what actually is happening. Rather than encouraging buyers to now negotiate rates on their own, they continue to press sellers to offer commissions of 5 or 6% and then discuss commission splits among themselves. The seller doesn't have to do that. In fact, maybe this person doesn't know this. Maybe this person doesn't know. But on listing agreements in California, there's not even a spot for buyer's agent compensation. There's not even any vehicle for me to say, "Oh, you're willing to pay 3% to this buyer's agent. I'm going to advertise that." There's not even a spot in there for that. And again, nobody has to agree to 5 or 6%. A seller could just say, "I'm not doing that. I'm going to pay you 2% or whatever it is." So rather than encouraging buyers to negotiate rates on their own, which that's not something agents, that wasn't a part of the lawsuit. "Oh, hey, agents, as part of this lawsuit, you need to encourage buyers to negotiate." That's not our job. If the buyers want to negotiate, they can negotiate and we can talk about it. We can come to an agreement. And if I want that client bad enough, maybe I'll give in. And if they want, or if I don't give in, maybe they want to work with me bad enough because I get results. Maybe they just want to pay me. Who knows? That's what a negotiation is. It's the discussion. Commission splits are largely happening the old-fashioned way: phone, email, and text, which is absolutely permitted by the lawsuit. In one TikTok video, viewed by the New York Times, a real estate coach in Virginia with 60,000 followers trains her viewers on how to build a landing page for each of her listings that sends automated messages to buyers' agents, informing them of the commission they will receive if they bring a buyer. Yes, of course, because for many, many buyers out there, they do not have the money to pay for down payment, closing costs, escrow fees, insurance, and their agent. And if that home price goes up 2% or 3%, they're not going to be able to buy the home. Because remember, on the average price home in the United States is about 480. 1, 2, 3. We're going to times this by 0.02, $9,600. Let's just call it 10K to make it easy. On the average home, we're talking about 10K. We're talking about 10K, $10,000 for 2%. So if the seller said, I'm not giving you anything, that either means A, you don't get to work with an agent, or B, you got to pay that agent 10 grand out of pocket, which means that home just got $10,000 more expensive. So of course, consumers are going to want to know, wait a minute, before I buy this home, am I going to have to pay my realtor, or is the seller willing to pay? Right? Before you buy a car, you're going to want to know, like, oh, do I have to pay for the warranty, or is the dealer just going to throw it in? Because the dealer throws it in, I'll take it. But if I have to pay for the warranty, I can't afford the car anymore. It's going to be too expensive for me. So of course, we're going to generate mechanisms for people to understand that information, because that information is really, really important, because it could be the difference between a home that's affordable or a home that's not affordable. Because even on a $500,000 home or $400,000 home, we're talking about $10,000 here. So that's a lot of money. And if they only have 5% down on 500,000, what does that equate? $25,000, 5% down on 500,000, $25,000 their down payment. Now all of a sudden they have to pay an extra 10 grand to their agent. Maybe they are going to want to know ahead of time what the cost is. Wouldn't it be cool if they could just go online and see exactly what the fee is? What if we had a method that allowed people, consumers, to go onto a website, like maybe something like Redfin, and see exactly how much the fees were? Oh, wait, we did have that, and then this lawsuit got rid of it. This is bananas. So this is not anything, they make this sound like this is some shady trickery. Oh, there's this one person on TikTok that's telling agents just to make a landing page. Not only is that completely within the rules of the lawsuit, it also is actually helpful to consumers, because then they actually know what they're on the hook for and what the seller's going to pay for and what they're going to have to pay for as buyers. It only took a matter of weeks, really, for most agents to find a loophole. Once again, it's not a loophole. It's almost a joke, said Nick Afunkamp, a realtor in Washington who started a coaching business, DIY Homebuyer Academy, after the settlement to help buyers learn how to represent themselves in real estate transactions. Interesting. So an agent that decided to start a tech business to try to make money off this said, oh, this isn't good. Just like the gentleman, Mr. Chamber, who said, oh, a realtor won't negotiate with me. This is crooked. Oh, well, now I'm launching my own business to capitalize off this. They're no different than agents. They're trying to make money off of people buying and selling homes, just as real estate agents are, just as brokers are, just as home inspection companies are, just as title companies are, just as banks are, really just as everyone is. There's a huge reluctance to see any change in this industry, Mr. Afunkamp said. He estimates he has coached 30 clients who wanted to represent themselves in a home purchase and ran into a wall. The National Association of Realtors is resolutely opposed to any attempt to circumvent the settlement, said a spokesperson, Troy Green, who added that any attempts from his agents to influence buyers' or sellers' decision in order to gain more commission is unequivocally not something that NAR condones. The organization has a fact sheet on its website explaining that steering is a violation of their code of ethics. Let's see. Hey, John, how you doing? Hope your week's going well. Thanks for hanging out. Insatiable greedy grabbers using trickery in a wide variety of ways are everywhere. They are unable to empathize and lack a genuine interest in the needs of others. Best to use a trusted agent. Absolutely. And I think it's important, John, you bring up a good point. It's important for people to realize, I'm not saying that every agent is a saint. I started the stream off by saying that 80% of real estate agents suck. 20% actually are good, which means that you need to find an agent in the 20%. And of course, if you need a good real estate agent, just reach out to me. I'm going to put up my website at the end of the stream. You can reach out to me. I don't even mean just to use me to buy or sell a home. If you're in Wichita, Kansas, and you're like, I want a good real estate agent. I want one that's not one of these weird, disingenuous, shady people. Send me a message. I'll find you a good real estate agent. Okay. And it doesn't cost you a dime. Okay. So you're right, John. There's people out there that are using trickery and they don't have empathy, and they're just looking to make a buck. And it doesn't matter who they're blaming for it. Oh, those greedy real estate agents, they're so greedy. Well, use my product instead so I can make money off you. Okay. They don't have your best interest in mind. Anybody who's going to offer a competing product probably does not have your best interest in mind. Thanks for hanging out, John. Hope you're doing well, buddy. The National Association of Realtors, we talked about this, and NAR was very serious about that. I don't know how many emails I got between the California Association of Realtors, my MLS, and the National Association of Realtors that said, you can't make any hints of compensation anywhere in your listings. You can't say that, we're giving out three dogs for commission, and really dogs means percent, some codified way. NAR was completely against that. But Mr. Green added that the settlement expressly allows agents to communicate offers of commission between each other on venues outside the MLS database. Interesting. So here we are again, another very, very important tidbit tucked into the very middle of this article. Just up a few paragraphs, this author had the gall and audacity to say, oh, agents are circumventing, they're finding loopholes. Look at that. Look at these greedy agents talk about it amongst themselves and in back rooms where they hatch these deals. But right here it says the settlement expressly allows, in quotes, agents to communicate offers of commission between each other on venues outside of the MLS database. Okay, so it's not a problem. And there lies the rub, said Doug Miller, a Minnesota lawyer who 5 years ago brought one of the first lawsuits over inflated commissions to Cohan Milstein, a Chicago law firm. I just want to know when the lawsuit's going to come out about overinflated lawyer fees. I wonder when that's happening. The NAR settlement solves MLS steering. It did not solve steering. He said, sharing is caring unless you're a realtor, and then it's collusion. So there you have it. Just because we share information, all of a sudden we're colluding. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. Some agents have turned to the legislative process to protect commission sharing. A few months after NAR lost its lawsuit, Oklahoma State Senator Paul Rosino, a former broker, co-sponsored a bill requiring agents on both sides of a transaction to share their fees in writing. Yeah, we did the same thing. This is pretty normal. With the support of Oklahoma's influential Realtor Association, that bill passed and went into effect in May. That's very common. In fact, one of the things that came out of the lawsuit was that now buyers and brokers must have a contract between them. Before, it was only sellers and brokers had to have a contract. Buyers didn't. Now buyers must have a contract. Honestly, I love it. It's great. It works out great for me. I know who's committed to me. They know that I'm committed to them. And by the way, the interesting part is that contract can be for as little as 1 day or for one house. So we went through all this to say, okay, you've got to have a contract with the buyer's agent so everything's clear, but that agreement might only be valid for 24 hours or less. Interesting. The New York Times interviewed 15 buyers and sellers across the country. So a very good, big sample size. Good journalism. From Colorado to Ohio to Arizona and beyond, who said they were blocked out of the market when they tried to negotiate commissions or navigate transactions without a real estate agent. I would love to know what blocked out of the market means. I would love to know what that means. All 15 of these people were blocked out of the market. It's a free market. If you want to put your house up for sale, you can literally go to the home improvement store right now and go to Lowe's. You can buy a sign that says for sale by owner. You can stick it in the ground right now and your home could be for sale. I could put my house on the market for sale in 30 minutes from right now. Just go put a sign in the front yard that says for sale. Then I can make a post on Facebook that says, hey, everybody, I'm selling my house. Who wants to buy it? So I don't understand what they mean by blocked out. They tried to negotiate commissions. Just because a professional doesn't want to discount their services doesn't mean that you were blocked out from the negotiation. It just means that that person didn't want to cut their fees. Simple, simple. There's no harm in that. How many professionals do want to cut their fees? You know, would you go up to your son or daughter's school teacher and say, hey, you know what? We need to negotiate about your fee. I think you're getting paid too much. They're going to laugh at you, right? They're going to laugh at you. Try that with your doctor or a dentist or an attorney. Heck, go to an attorney, tell them they make too much money. And you want to negotiate. They're going to say, no, this is my price. Okay, well, are they at fault for not negotiating with you? They don't have to negotiate with you. In Boulder, Mr. Chambers' home listing caught the eye of a local real estate agent, Lindsay Alfano. Ms. Alfano, 25, has been an agent for 2 years. She said Mr. Chambers had promised to pay a buyer's agent commission. So he is willing to pay a commission. Interesting. Okay, very interesting. And she told fellow agents at her brokerage, EXP, that she was planning to show the house to her buyers. Excellent. This is the same thing I would be doing. If I had clients that were interested in a house that was listed by the owner, I'd call that owner up and say, hi, Mr. Owner, are you okay entertaining an offer from clients if it's presented by a real estate agent? And that seller's probably gonna say, yeah, bring me an offer. And then I'm gonna say, okay, my clients would like to know if you're offering any compensation to the agent. If yes, great, we can submit an offer at this price. If no, we need to submit an offer at this price because they need to reserve funds to pay me. Because newsflash, I don't work for free. Nobody does. This is very normal. That's exactly what Miss Alfano should have done. She received text messages mocking her and encouraging her to change course. The New York Times reviewed these messages. You're working for free, one colleague said. Okay, now first off, this is all BS. All these messages that these agents sent her, which by the way is only 2 messages. It's interesting they said that, but obviously this person's wrong. They're not working for free because Mr. Chambers said, I'll pay you a commission if you do bring a buyer. Okay, this is stupid. Sell your own listings, wrote another. This is embarrassing. This seems very random. The context isn't even here. It's not her listing. How could she sell it, her own listing? This doesn't make any sense. But I do agree here that the idea that other agents shouldn't be inputting their thoughts on what another agent should do, especially if that agent is serving their clients in the best way. If this client said, I'm interested in that house, Joe, I want to see that house. Get me in to see that house. I'm going to go, okay, my job right now is to go through and try and get you in that house. And if I can't, I'm going to tell you exactly why and what the reasoning is. And if I can get in the house, we'll make an appointment. We'll go take a look at it. If you like it, we'll write an offer. Okay, we'll talk about it. Great. Miss Alfano described her peers' reaction as eye-opening. The amount of people that were so scared of this guy having access to what we do was a rude awakening for me. All 2 messages that she received. She said in an interview, the word is steering. If you're worried about how much you're going to get paid based on the home that your client loves, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. This is absolutely true. I don't agree that this is steering. That's not steering. Again, we don't know all the information. If the client says, I don't want to see that home unless that seller is paying you because I can't afford it, it's not steering. That would be like saying, oh, my buyer's only interested in single-story homes. That's it. Only single-story homes. They don't want a 2-story home. And then someone's saying, oh, you didn't show my house. You didn't show my house to your buyer. That's steering. You steered them away from my home just because it's a 2-story. Well, yeah, they don't want that. So I'm not going to show it to them. Just like a buyer might not want to look at a house where they have to come out of pocket to pay their agent. They might only want to look at homes where they don't have to worry about real estate fees or commissions for their agent. That's completely valid and in their right to do so. That is not steering. But I do agree, if you are worried about how much you're going to get paid based on, how much the client loves the home, that's BS. You're exactly right. The best agents will tell you, the best agents are the ones that care about their clients, not how much they're going to get paid. And when an agent cares more about clients, the outcome and the client's success, guess what happens? The money comes, right? Just like anything else. If you're focused on the right thing, good things happen. If you're focused on the wrong thing, bad things happen. Mr. Chambers found a buyer in early March and his home is now in contract. He is now focused, he said, on building a new company that says we'll disrupt the real estate industry. Look at that. So this guy is now turning around and is going to try to profit on the very same real estate industry that he thinks is so messed up. Interesting. I wanted to pay someone for their services. Of course, I wanted to pay someone, but I don't want to just light money on fire because there's a system that's forcing me to do so. No one's forcing you. No one's forcing you to do so. In fact, he figured it out. Just sell the home yourself. You've always had that option. You've always had the option to sell the home yourself. You had never had to use an agent. There's all sorts of comments here. I might come back to this if we have time. Some of these comments are really interesting. The author goes back and forth a little bit. And again, she makes these very interesting stretches and connections. And the questions she asks are very reporter. They're framed questions. So we're not going to worry about the comments for now. What I want to do is I want to go to Instagram and I want to show you this video. I want to show you this. So this is Jared James. He's like a real estate coach kind of, and he talked about this article, and we have very similar thoughts on this article. And I'm going to scroll up here to the comments on the side, and you're going to see a familiar Instagram handle. Realtors hate me. This is the guy that was in the article. This is the guy. This is Mr. Chambers. So we're going to take a peek at that in a moment, but just not quite yet. All right, make sure your audio's on. If you guys can't hear it, please let me know because it's going to be important to hear this, although it is captioned. All right, we ready? All right, let's go, guys.
Hey guys, I'm going to make a radical statement that I know is going to shock some of you. You can't trust everything coming out of the New York Times. You know, this article was written by the lady who writes for the New York Times, who seems to write nothing but negative things about real estate, even though that's the area that she tends to write about. And there are a couple of accusations.
And we talked about that, right? We went over the bio of the author, and it does seem like she is more focused on just the negative aspects of anything real estate related, whether that's sexual harassment, commission fees, whatever, rather than actually, writing about informational, impactful, useful things, right? Now, I will say, obviously, if she did write an article about someone who was committing sexual harassment in the workplace, and that article led to that person being ousted, that's job well done. So I'm not obviously going to fault her for that. But I just think it's interesting that you're going to be someone that says, oh yeah, I want Americans to understand how home buying and selling and home ownership works. And then you don't really talk about that. You just talk about these weird lawsuits and fees and about how realtors are greedy and, they're terrible people.
That she makes that I want to address. The first is she talks about the settlement in the real estate industry over the last year and says that it's not having the effect that it was intended to have, which was to lower real estate commissions, when that was not the intention at all. The intention was transparency. And when you say to lower real estate commissions, lower them to what? What number did you have in mind? Because that is the definition of price fixing, which is
that's such a great point. Everybody says we want lower fees, lower commissions. Okay, well, what do you want? And people go, oh, you should just work flat rate. Okay, what's that flat rate? I don't know. That's price fixing. That is price fixing. We cannot do that. That's been illegal for a long time. I mean, that's been illegal since the early 1900s when they had, trust busters and, all this stuff about trying to make things fair and anti-monopolistic laws and things like that. So it's so funny. Everybody says, oh, we want lower fees, lower. Well, what do you want? Well, we don't know what we want, but we just want them lower. Okay.
Exactly what we're not allowed to do. The second thing here, home sellers and buyers accuse realtors of blocking lower fees, is utterly ridiculous in a free market. You can't block things in a free market. Every buyer, every seller has access to thousands of agents who all compete, or they can do things themselves and not pay a dime. That is completely on the table. That is called the free market. But people like this don't understand the free market and don't understand that for some cases, when a buyer has to come out of their pocket for compensation, they may not buy that property because they can't afford it. And that's fine, but that's reality. In the real world, we understand that you can hire a professional or not hire a professional. But if you go to rent your property and all you do is throw it up on your Facebook page, you're probably not going to get the same price as if you put it up on Airbnb. There is a cost to hiring a professional and getting access to their distribution, and people like this need to enter the real world. Okay, guys, I'm going to make a radical statement that I...
All right. So he really puts into summation great. I mean, to put all this into like a nice, eloquent summary in about 1 minute is amazing. What I'm going to do is we're going to watch this one more time because I'm not going to pause it this time. I'm going to let it go all the way through. It's only like a minute and 20 seconds. And then we're going to look at some of these comments because I want you guys to see the position of this realtors hate me guy, which I don't think realtors hate him. I mean, there's tons of FSBOs. He's acting like he's the god of FSBO, like he invented for sale by owner. Like, oh my God, I'm the first person to do for sale by owner, screw realtors. It's like, no, people have been doing for sale by owner for forever. In fact, there's for sale by owners right now in my city. So nothing new. So we're going to watch this video one more time. We'll watch the video clip one more time because I think it's really impactful and it's really good. And then we're going to look at what this guy has to say.
I know is going to shock some of you. You can't trust everything coming out of the New York Times. You know, this article was written by the lady who writes for the New York Times, who seems to write nothing but negative things about real estate, even though that's the area that she tends to write about. And there are a couple of accusations that she makes that I want to address. The first is she talks about the settlement in the real estate industry over the last year and says that it's not having the effect that it was intended to have, which was to lower real estate commissions, when that was not the intention at all. The intention was transparency. And when you say to lower real estate commissions, lower them to what? What number did you have in mind? Because that is the definition of price fixing, which is exactly what we're not allowed to do. The second thing here, home sellers and buyers accuse realtors of blocking lower fees, is utterly ridiculous in a free market. You can't block things in a free market. Every buyer, every seller has access to thousands of agents who all compete, or they can do things themselves and not pay a dime. That is completely on the table. That is called the free market. But people like this don't understand the free market and don't understand that for some cases, when a buyer has to come out of their pocket for compensation, they may not buy that property because they can't afford it. And that's fine, but that's reality. In the real world, we understand that you can hire a professional or not hire a professional. But if you go to rent your property and all you do is throw it up on your Facebook page, you're probably not going to get the same price as if you put it up on Airbnb. There is a cost to hiring a professional and getting access to their distribution, and people like this need to enter the real world. Okay, guys, I'm going to make a
All right, guys. So after all of that said and done, I'm going to try to make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. Hopefully it makes these. Now Jared's face is giant. This should be big enough for you guys. It's like plus 200%. So here he is. We're going to see him right over here. Realtors hate me. Right out of the gate. I mean, this guy, he's really smart. He is kind of like a crash bro in the sense that it's this new thing called rage baiting. He's rage baiting all of these people in the comments. It's brilliant because people are going to respond to him. People are going to look at him. They're going to follow him. They're going to want to know what's going on. And rage baiting is the new clickbait, right? So like the whole idea, we used to call them like hand grenade comments back in the old days of like MySpace, where like someone would walk into a thread and leave a comment that you knew was going to start World War III. And then they just leave. You never see from them again. And then everybody else fights. So this is what this guy did. So here he is. Realtors hate me. Oh, come on, Jared. Stop pretending like the real estate industry operates like a free market. You guys have spent 100 years and trillions of dollars building legal and regulatory walls to put anyone who doesn't use your services at an immediate disadvantage. That's not a free market. I haven't even launched my company yet, and the sharks are circling to sue me. If this industry could actually compete on value, it wouldn't need to rig the game. Interesting. You don't like getting sued for doing your business? Yeah, neither do we. Neither do agents. So now like here are all the people, right, that come after him. Homeowners have the ability to market their homes on Zillow, Realtor.com, etc., or even hire a flat fee company to get on the MLS, which is absolutely true. You can hire an agent, pay him $1,000, boom, your property's in the MLS. You'll continue to push this narrative to try to enrich yourself through your startup. Good luck with that. You're trying to make money in this industry just like the rest of us. The whole point of your FSBO, this is for sale by owner, often referred to as FSBO, journey is to pretend like you're looking out for the consumer when really you're trying to draw people in to use your AI product. So don't act like some hero looking out for the little guy. You're a tech bro looking out for yourself, perhaps another member of the tech cartel. This is a great comment and likely very true. After wading through your videos, I'm left with more questions about how you approach capitalism. What about grocery or automobile or any other prices? Why do we have to essentially cover the cost for stolen goods or product loss, which we do when people steal things from Target or Walmart or wherever? Guess what happens? The price of that product goes up because we have to pay for that product loss. Maybe you're right. We need to operate like other professional services. For instance, when I call an appliance repair person in my area, for them to come out, it's $165 plus $100 per hour after that. Is that what you want the market to work? What's your alternative? Because for buyers, What's your alternative option for buyers? Because my business needs to clear profit at the end of the day for me to stay alive. And one of the things about the industry I'd like to address is, what about the time spent with people that don't purchase? Should that be free? Is it wrong for deals that close to cover those costs? Isn't that how it works at Rode, whose microphone you use? How do you approach that? Which is a great question. So this agent was relating the idea of, listen, when people are paying to buy a house, that's also making up for all the people that agent worked with that didn't buy a house, right? Real estate agents are one of the few groups of people that work for free up until the job is done. And we have no recourse, right? You think, well, a contractor will start building me a pool and I give him half up front and I give him half when he's done. And I could just not give him half when he's done. Yes, and that contractor will sue you and put a lien on your house. I can't do that. I can't sue you and say, well, I really did a lot of work for you, but you just didn't close on a house, so I didn't get paid. But you still have to pay me. It doesn't work that way. So there's all sorts of really good things in here. I could go on and on and on and on. These comments are really good, but I'm not going to bore you guys with that stuff. But I just wanted to kind of share that article with you guys because, quite honestly, it's a load of BS. And I want to know what you guys think. Even if you're watching live or on the replay, I want to know what you think, right? I'm a real estate agent. I'll tell you right now, I'm biased, right? I'm a realtor. I am biased. I want to know what you guys think. I want to know if you think if my thought process is absolutely insane. That's fine. It's cool. We can disagree. It's okay. I also want to know if you guys think that article was kind of crazy and what your thoughts are about things. So put it in the comments and let me know what you guys think about things. So I hope you all enjoyed this stream. I think it went well. I think I had a good time. I had fun doing this one. We'll be back again, of course, next Wednesday, same time, same place. And I think what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to first share my screen here, and you're going to see this is my website. But before I do that, next week for the stream, I think I'm going to do a fun thing on Zillow where we're going to get a random city in the United States. We're going to get a random price. We're going to get a random budget. And then we're going to cruise on Zillow and find the best house at that price in that city, right? So it's just to say, oh, we're going to spin a wheel. Okay, Kansas City, Missouri, your budget is $800,000. What house are we buying? So we're going to go through, we're going to do some window shopping. We're going to look at some fun things like that. But like I said, if you guys need a real estate agent, if you guys are looking for someone, whether or not that's in the, I can't get my buttons right, guys. I'm sorry. There we go. If you guys are looking for an agent, if you guys are looking for a trusted real estate professional, someone that actually knows what they're doing, let me know. You can go to my website, workwithjoerealtor.com. You can click on any of these buttons and you'll go to a forum where I'll ask you some questions. You can book a time to chat with me. You can learn what your needs are, and I can get you set up with an agent. I have a network all over the United States of tons of great agents. So please don't just go with the first person you see on the little grocery, the grocery store shopping cart. Get a recommendation from me. I promise it'll be much, much better. And if you're in the Southern California area, we can work directly together, and I would be happy to guide you all along the whole way. Yeah, John, I think next ones will be good too. So make sure you tune in for that one. Same time, same place, John. So we've got some fun coming up next week. If you guys need a realtor, go to my website. We can get hooked up. I hope you guys all had an enjoyable time watching this stream. I thought it was fun. The bus stop bench. Hey, MHOA. Hey, I think I saw you over in, were you in Jen's stream? I think you're over in Jen's stream. Hey, thanks for coming over. Thanks for checking out my stream. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you watched a lot of it. If you're catching me at the end, please catch the replay. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button right down there. Consider subscribing to the channel. Really appreciate it. And we'll be back next Wednesday. So make sure you catch that one, MH. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you being here. So guys, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week. Thanks so much for giving me some of your very valuable time. If you need anything real estate related, please reach out. Thanks again. Have a good rest of your week. I'll see you all real soon. Bye, guys.